Really? That was 20 minutes?
Yeah. That's what she said.
Have you seen the latest episode of Game of Thrones?
Yes, I have.
You have.
Yeah.
And for the benefit of the viewers, just a warning, spoiler warning, and a trigger warning as well about the episode. So see what I did there. I said
Yeah.
trigger warning. So what are they going to be triggered by? It's Game of Thrones, so it might be anything from.
And also spoiler warning.
I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
did say spoiler warning. But it's the kind of show where you could be celebrating. I'm gonna try to lessen the spoilers as much as I can. Be as vague. Sacramental events will have very violent happenings in I don't know what episode, right? Like it might or might not happen. See, like the thrill of Game of Thrones comes from not knowing what's around the corner, right? And a funny thing is happening. People are being surprised by Game of Thrones. Even the people who have read all of the books, they're being surprised by what's shown on TV because it's not, it's not what's
It's
written
not
on
in
the
the
books.
same order.
But I don't know. Apparently, a lot of people would prefer it to stay exactly the same way. Now, that's one level of offense, right? Like you think that the writers of the TV show shouldn't be taking creative liberties. What do you think? Did you read the books?
Yeah, I've
You
read
read them.
all 5 of them.
All
so
5
far.
of them.
Yeah.
What did you think of the changes?
It's understandable that the books or the series don't always follow the books. It's the same as in the movies. Because it leaves a lot of room for, say, the writers of the show, the producers, to have their own artistic feedback. And I find it interesting, actually. Like, I don't mind if it's slightly different or they switch the order or that, like, right now they've gone a little past the 5th book. I don't mind.
I don't mind as well.
It's
I think
pleasant
it's
surprise.
hearing from my friends talking about the kinds of changes that were made. I think it would have made for a more boring show if they hadn't made the changes. Now, it's changes like the sensitive changes. Those are the ones that are controversial. About what you just said, George R. Martin himself, I got his name right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He himself was okay with the changes. He defended it in a statement that he made on his site.
He actually supervises every
Oh.
episode. Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so I mean,
nothing goes out without his approval. So all the changes that have happened so far
not
in the series.
there was that one change that slipped through though, like that scene in a ceremonial death chamber, and a sensitive event happened.
We are censoring ourselves.
Yeah. See, that's the
This
problem.
is hard.
This is we're going to get into that, but that change apparently did not get through him. He wasn't, he didn't find it too much of a problem. He just said that it got through him.
Yeah.
And now, when that happened, there was an uproar. People were saying, "Why are you using? Okay, if you don't want to be spoiled by the show, you can skip to several seconds after." But okay, the rape scenes in the show that weren't in the book, that's what the people are having a problem with. So, first time, well, of course, the Dani also was raped.
Yeah.
Right?
By her husband.
By her husband. And she went through this nice journey afterwards of redeeming, getting back her integrity, becoming this very powerful woman. And
Falling in love with her rapist.
falling in love with her
And
rapist
husband.
and her husband. Now, people think you shouldn't use rape as a plot device. What do you think of that?
I think that'll just take the piss out of the whole thing. Because, well, rape is, Game of Thrones is fiction, but rape is part of one of the horrible things that are...
Life.
Yeah, in reality, in
Yeah.
life. And if you can't deal with it in fiction, if you need trigger warnings for that in fiction, like there are no trigger warnings in real life,
Oh, did you read that article? Because that's, check this article out.
Oh,
What
yeah.
you said is actually the title of an article that I just read. That life doesn't come with
Trigger warnings.
trigger warnings. So trigger warnings, by the way. What are trigger warnings for those of you who haven't heard of it? It's not quite popular here, but liberal, progressive writers, especially in the US, have been advocating for trigger warnings. So a trigger warning is when you let the audience know of the audience of a book, of a speech. It could be in an auditorium.
Yeah.
That something that's sensitive will be depicted. It
Yeah.
could be violence, or it could be rape, or any
murder,
other sensitive things.
mutilation.
Yeah, that's understandable. But
Yeah.
like I read about this event where anti-feminism anti-feminism was already placed on a trigger warning.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. The things that are happening in U.S. campuses are kind of weird to me. Of course, if you disagree, we can always talk about that at the meetup. But what's happening is people are not only censoring, the kinds of things that they find uncomfortable or that offend them. Even the views that they disagree with are triggers for them.
Yeah.
So
that's a little bit too much, I think.
not to them, not to them. So it's been the reason that a lot of speakers in these U.S. campuses have been disinvited, they have been boycotted, and it's this line of censorship. Okay, let's call it censorship. That's caused websites, or it's Mary Sue, a website or a Facebook page. They said they're boycotting Game of Thrones. They won't promote it in any way, shape, or form because of the depictions of rape in that show. And I think it's going too far. But we're on the same side here. Let's try to understand. Let's try to look at it from their perspective. You're a victim of rape. Okay, let's go for the extremes here. You recently experienced a traumatic event in your life. Should we have made a trigger warning for discussions of rape? Okay, and then the next episode of Game of Thrones is coming. A show that has already historically depicted rape in the past few seasons.
Yeah.
Would you appreciate? Let's try to get into their mindset. A warning. Like, when do you do it? At the start of the season, should there be a separate episode about all of the triggers that are going to be depicted on the show?
Individual trigger for every
should it be,
scene
yeah.
that could be triggering.
Yeah, how do you do it? At the start of the episode, it's gonna be put on there. Trigger warning. You don't want your audience to miss the whole show, so you say when.
Okay.
Or so that there would still be some continuity while you're watching, right?
Yeah.
If you're not one to be triggered, but if you want the someone, of course you're a fan of the show. Only you don't want the depiction of rape. So you would prefer the trigger warning to be right before the rape scene. So how would you seamlessly add that
me
in?
As a rape victim. Would I appreciate that or not?
Yeah, it would jarringly, okay, people who are triggered by the issue of rape, tune in to change the channel, and then how will they find out? Mark 1 minute on your watch. We'll be back after that without the scenes. And how? Like, even after the scene has happened, the characters are still reeling from
from what
just happened. They're going to be talking about it. She's going to be sad. Why is he sad? Oh, no, it's rape. Trigger.
Yeah. So there's another, trigger warning.
Even implementation is a problem. What are your opinions? As a fan of the show, as a woman, what are your...
Do I have to pretend that I'm a rape victim?
Well, for the sake of the discussion, maybe. I don't know.
All right. If I were a rape victim, I would appreciate trigger warnings, like at every, level of the show where there's like a sensitive scene. But, if I took my trauma seriously, then I just would have watched the whole show altogether. Unless I know that I could probably take it maybe a little bit. And at which point I probably wouldn't need trigger warnings for every scene. You could just have like a trigger warning for the entire show, like, oh hey, the show is gruesome and all that, and I don't understand.
It depicts violence, sexual violence, violence against women, violence of all kinds.
Yeah.
So if you want to be triggered by violence or depictions of violence, please avoid this show.
Or actually in psychology, one of the most effective ways to cure PTSD is not actually avoidance, but exposure.
Yeah, controlled exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So you can't do that by just pausing or skipping scenes all the time. That's not going to help you. That's not going to help me if I were a rape victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are you, like, should shows like Game of Thrones be treatment or cure for people with PTSD? I think if you have trauma, you should be seeing a qualified
Professional,
doctor,
yeah.
a qualified professional for it, right? Because it's not something that can be solved by media. It's not something that can be solved by your
I can't
friends.
just say, oh hey, I'm gonna watch this movie with a lot
It's
of
a
rape
serious
scenes
condition.
to cure myself.
It's true. It's painful, and you should see
A
trained
doctor.
psychologist or shrink or doctor or whatever for it, right? But should it be the responsibility of everyone else around you to cure your PTSD? Like, carpet. I'm thinking of this metaphor. I don't know where I read it before, but do you carpet the entire world, or do you just wear sandals for yourself?
Oh, that is nice.
Like
Yeah, that makes sense.
like the way to. I just when I'm thinking of ways to address this situation or this issue, I'm thinking of back to Medeo Cruz. You remember that issue? Like, for those of you who don't know, like an artist, trigger warning for blasphemy. Someone put a phallus on the forehead of Jesus Christ, put it on
This was
an
years
exhibit
ago,
in the
Years ago.
CCP. It was years ago. And the people on the progressive side are saying, if it's speech you do not like, you do not have to look at it. Look away. Know that the artist has his personal goals for doing this, but you don't have to consume it,
Yeah.
right? And no one has the right not to be offended. That was the slogan, the battle cry of that movement. Now, people who were on that side are saying, but, or except when, okay? No one has the right not to be offended except when it's about rape, or except when it's about anti-feminism, or about
Okay.
issues we disagree with. I recently read about this post where an LGBT group in one campus, like, they wanted to boycott or even to prevent from happening a debate between Michael Shermer, who was pro marriage equality, pro LGBT rights, and this anti-gay marriage, anti-LGBT person, or maybe he was just anti-marriage equality.
This was in
So,
a university.
This was in a university.
Okay.
There was this person who was going to defend their side very strongly, Michael Shermer. I believe that he could have done a good job, but he wasn't able to do it because people thought that it was already a decided issue.
Okay.
Marriage equality should be the official position of the school, and dissenters do not have the right to express a contrary opinion.
But doesn't that be the purpose of being in a school?
Being in a university.
where you can explore like different sides
Yeah.
and challenge your own beliefs, even if like that LGBTs should have marriage equality and
Yeah.
all that. Even if that is what you strongly believe,
Yeah.
wouldn't it help to know like where the other side is coming from?
Where the other side is coming
yeah,
from.
exactly.
And the assumption is people are all on the same side already.
Yeah.
Like, it's a done deal. It's a decided issue, but couldn't be further from the truth, as they all know. But they're pretending that I think there's some delusion here. They're pretending that some issues are already decided when it's clearly not. And I don't know. It's a denial of reality in the same way that trigger warnings kind of, especially for fiction. Fiction is supposed to be like a concentrated form of life. Life can be boring. You don't learn something new every day. You don't experience strong events every day.
Yeah.
And fiction is supposed to be life distilled. That's why people go to it. They enjoy it more. They feel more. It's all about the feelings. And of course, if you want people to feel, you make stuff tragic. It has to be tragic.
Of course.
And
that is the purpose of art too. Like
Yeah.
art is supposed to make you feel,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to make you feel upset.
Yeah.
It's supposed to challenge you, make you feel new emotions that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you put trigger warnings on art like that, then I mean, what's gonna happen?
You're not gonna enjoy the experience
Yeah.
as fully as you could have without the trigger warnings.
Yeah. Actually, Neil Gaiman recently published a book. It's called Trigger Warning.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think it was in the introduction. He wrote something like, "Should fictions be safe places?"
That's another safe spaces. Maybe that's
Safe places, spaces.
okay. The safe space, for those of you who do not know. So let's say there's an event happening in a campus, right? A safe space is a place that's reserved for people who do not want to hear anything about that other controversial event.
Yeah.
So everyone should have these trigger-free spaces. So these some liberal people argue. So go ahead. What did Neil Gaiman say?
Well, pretty much the answer is they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, because like I said, in fiction, that is how you explore yourself more through like the horrible things or the wonderful things that happen in the book. And how are you gonna do that? Like, how do you expand your horizons and know more about yourself and the world around you if there's something that hinders you, like warns you right away, like, oh hey, this has a rape scene, this has like racism, for example, and like it pretty much it spoon feeds you like, oh, rape is wrong, racism is wrong. Like it points out right away that these things are wrong without you asking yourself first, like, oh hey, wait, this looks like it's not right. You don't get to think for yourself.
Thinking for yourself. Thinking for yourself. It's how you think. We always say at Three Thinkers, it's not so much the conclusion or what you think, but how you get there or how you think. So, instead of telling people...
Doesn't that apply to life as well?
That applies,
It's not
so,
a destination.
when you do stuff like this, it's like, as you said, spoon feeding. And it reminds me of an argument someone made about trigger warnings. So we have trigger warnings for like before every show on TV. We already have that. The following program contains scenes of violence not suited for children below 18 or
Parental
16 or 13.
Is advised.
Parental guidance is advised. Now, that's a good argument, for kids. Like that's essentially what's happening. They're treating adults as if they were kids. That should be
as if they're fragile,
spoon-fed or swaddled, or that they will break or crumble. And I do not doubt that there are people who are fragile. I mean,
definitely.
Adults who experience trauma, and like I said, like these people should also should get the proper care that they need. And I wouldn't be against like there being, let's say, websites, triggerwarning.com or fictiontrigger.com. And before you watch a show, you go there and you check whether your show has triggers.
I think those websites are necessary.
Those are great. Those are awesome. But requiring everyone to go to your level, to live as if they had the trauma as well. That's really multiplying the damage that has been caused to you. So a traumatic event happened to you. It makes life less beautiful for you, for sure. And then you want others to experience the trauma as well. But I realize now, there's an argument for that. Sharing that kind of pain helps. It does help. So, controversial issue, lots of arguments on this. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts?
Are you going to trigger people?
No, I don't want to trigger anyone. But I will come to the defense of the artists who have to censor themselves with trigger warnings. And I quote Kanye West. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I quote Kanye West, who is now a doctor, apparently, because he received an honorary degree from this art school in Chicago. And in his acceptance speech, he says something like, it's the responsibility of the artists to get away with whatever they can. Like, don't compromise. Like, don't let anyone hinder you from expressing yourself through art, no matter how harsh it can be or cruel it can be. Because that is life. And ultimately, that is going to help other people as well who are experiencing your art. Like, they'll feel the cruelty of the world and will therefore be prepared when they experience it themselves. And it'll allow them to feel like plethora of feelings
Yeah.
and grow as human beings.
And on a final note, as with free speech, when it comes to art, the answer to bad art is more art. You know, the
agree with
answer
that.
to bad arguments is more arguments. And eventually, hopefully, truth wins out. Thank you for watching this episode. There are still so many things
Did we
that
introduce ourselves?
it's going to happen. Trust the producer. So many things that will be discussed at the meetup, which is on May 30th. It's a Saturday. The venue will be announced on the website, on our pages. If you want to learn more, subscribe to our stuff, share our stuff,
Yeah.
and see you next
Also,
time.
there's 2 pages. Like, there's one page and there's one announcement
Yeah.
page.
Very
That's
helpful.
important because some of my friends only like the other page and they
Okay.
don't know what else is going on in the other page.
Like both the page, the updates and announcements group page, the website, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well.
Yep. Watch the podcast.
Everywhere on social media. We're even on meetup.com. So thank you, friends,
Thanks, Red.
and see you next time.
Bye.